I told these guys at GQ, there isn't any question that I won't answer, except this one. What's up, GQ? I am UFC President Dana White, and I am going undercover on the internet. It's actually me. Twitter. I like Twitter. I don't hate Twitter. A lot of negativity on Twitter. A lot of douchebags on Twitter, but I don't hate it. Dana White had hair? Yes, I had hair. Of course I had hair at one point in time. At Dana White, how many casinos are you banned from? It's not that I'm banned from casinos, they just don't want me to play there. They won't give me the limits that I want, and they won't let me bet as much as I want because they don't like to lose. The Palm has kicked me out of there twice. The Mirage, the Wynn will not let me play. The only places that will let me play in town are Caesar's Palace, the Bellagio, and the Venetian. All those guys take really big play, but if you are a big player and you come into town, you're insane not to play at Caesar's Palace. Caesar's Palace is by far the best casino in the world. In the world. We never got Dana White versus Tito Ortiz. How about Dana White versus Jake Paul? Let's make it a Triller fight. Zuffa Boxing Co-promotion for all the marbles. You guys realize I'm 53 years old now, right? When I was gonna fight Tito, I was 37. I'm 53. Come talk to me when you fucking idiots are 53 years old and tell me if you wanna fight some fucking 20-year-old kid. I promise you, you do not. You are a jackass, Santos. McGregor and Mayweather 2 is supposed to happen. Can someone confirm this? McGregor Mayweather 2 is not supposed to happen. Shouldn't happen. Hopefully won't happen. Dana White, if you had to cut one champion, who would you choose? This is a dirty question. Dirty question. And I told these guys at GQ, there isn't any question that I won't answer, except this one. If UFC President Dana White booked Fedor Emelianenko versus Brock Lesnar in 2009, who would have won? Obviously, I'm very biased when answering this question, but I'm going with Brock Lesnar. Brock wanted the fight. I tried to make the fight. We offered Fedor Emelianenko an ungodly amount of money, and they didn't want the fight. I don't know what to tell you. Why do you think people seem to talk about UFC fighter pay? I also would like to get paid more in my job, LOL. Listen, there aren't too many things you can talk shit about the UFC about. If you look at what we've done with the business in the last 22 years, it's incredible. Never been done, ever. The things that we've done in the fight business, you always have to have something to bitch about, I guess. And fighters always want to make more money. Boxing has absolutely been destroyed because of money and all the things that go on. It's never gonna happen while I'm here. Believe me, these guys get paid what they're supposed to get paid. They eat what they kill. They get a percentage of the pay-per-view buys, and the money is spread out amongst all the fighters. If you don't like it, there's a simple solution to this problem. Go start your own MMA organization, no barrier to entry, knock yourself out, pay them whatever you wanna pay them. It's been done before. How's it worked out for other guys? Not well. Mind your business. Quora. The fuck is Quora? How good of a boxer was Dana White? Obviously not very good, or I wouldn't be a promoter. Would Bruce Lee at his peak be able to contend with today's top MMA fighters? It's such an unfair question. I'm such a huge Bruce Lee fan. I mean, Bruce Lee in his day, we wouldn't be where we are today without Bruce Lee. So to try to compare him to today's fighters is ridiculous. Can Khabib Nurmagomedov be considered as the GOAT in the UFC? It's so hard. Obviously, he's talented enough. Who knows what he could accomplish, but he retired too early. I mean, John Jones is probably going to fight at heavyweight this year. Whatever you think about John, it's hard not to call him the GOAT. Believe me when I tell you I've tried to convince Khabib to come out of retirement. We'll see what happens over the next couple of years, but I feel like he left in his prime. I mean, look at what he did to Justin Gaethje right before he retired. How did Dana White get involved in the UFC? So I was involved in boxing, and myself and my partners, the Fertitta brothers, started taking jiu-jitsu. We fell in love with it. We became obsessed with it. And through that, we started to meet a lot of the fighters. And I started to manage Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz. That's really how we got involved. TikTok. Is Vegas still the boxing city, or is it a UFC city? I would call it the fight capital of the world. All the big things that are going on here as far as combat sports go happen in Vegas. But Abu Dhabi has become a very close second. And with what Abu Dhabi has planned for the next 10 years, very cool. What is your favorite UFC rivalry? There's been so many good ones. Cormier and Jones is right up there, though, one of my favorites. They were both so good. I truly believe that they were two of the absolute best fighters in the world when they faced each other. Wikipedia. White entered the boxing scene by co-promoting Floyd Mayweather versus Conor McGregor. In 2017, White said that he's getting into boxing 100%. White says he wants to incorporate boxing into company's portfolio of the UFC. This is true. And every time I start to go down the road to get involved in boxing, I go, have I lost my fucking mind? Am I crazy? Why would I ever want to get involved in this corrupt, insane, fucked up sport? And then, I jump out for a while and then I start to think about it again. Literally just started thinking about it a month ago. Got on the phone with a couple of boxing guys, hung up the phone and said, have I lost my fucking mind again? Why would I want to be in business with any of these guys? Instagram. Will we ever get to see UFC Africa? Absolutely, positively, 100% there will be a UFC Africa. Which fighter on the current roster has the potential to have the same impact on UFC as Conor McGregor? Maybe a Khamzat Chimaev? We'll see. What outside influences have shaped the way you promote UFC and produce shows and cards? Most of my influences have come from, obviously, I was a big boxing fan growing up. I feel like I always knew what fight fans wanted to see and didn't want to see. Most of my early influence was based on boxing. Yeah, it'd be hard to say that the WWE didn't influence me too. Yeah, with their live events and things that they've done, 100%. But mostly boxing. Reddit. What was the most satisfying victory for you out of any UFC fight? When Chuck Liddell knocked Tito Ortiz out. That was my favorite moment that has ever happened in UFC history. De La Hoya wants to sit down with Dana White to bury the hatchet. I feel like De La Hoya's apology was sincere, but there's no way that he and I can ever be friends again. He and I were actually friends. I used to go to his fights. I used to watch his fights. I used to promote his fights. That guy did way too much damage for us to ever be friends again. I appreciate his apology. Get it. We're cool, but we're never going to be that cool. What is the most brutal finish in UFC MMA history? To pick one is tough. I mean, there's been so many. Recently, Tony Ferguson versus Chandler, the leg breaks of Anderson Silva and Chris Weidman, Conor McGregor's leg break. There's been a few. YouTube. Dana, what fighters are on your top 5 all-time UFC list? John Jones, Anderson Silva, Ronda Rousey, Conor McGregor, GSP. There's so many other people that should be on there. Usman should be on there. Why is Dana so concerned about pirating streams? Who cares? I care, dummy. It's how everybody makes their money. You're bitching about fighters not making enough money. They get a piece of the pay-per-view. People who steal it are stealing from us and them. And what happens to people who steal? You get fucking smashed and you go to jail. That's what happens to you. And I make sure that we get you. Everybody was fucking laughing at me when I was talking about this. We caught a lot of people. People weren't laughing when they got caught. You had a lot of people begging me not to prosecute them. Stealing is stealing. I wonder what is going through Dana White's head during these face-offs. Also, what was the craziest face-off? What's going through my head is making sure that they don't touch each other and a big fight doesn't break out on stage. Tough to say what would be the craziest. Conor and Nate Diaz got pretty crazy. There's a bunch of them that have gotten crazy, but the toughest ones are when you have monster heavyweights that if they really start freaking out, there's not much I'm gonna be able to do. I would like to think that Cormier Jones would have gone differently had I been there, but that was probably the worst one ever. I mean, they're fighting in the lobby of the MGM Grand. Yeah, it was a bad one for us. All right, that's a wrap. We're signing out here on the internet.